Chapter 1405, Justice for Women in This World. Feng Ruqing turned to those who had just entered from outside the palace. Her eyes darkened a little. As she expected, some people of Deity's Gate had already entered the city, so there would not be too many people who would brazenly attack the city. Moreover, these holy warriors were so strong that if they deliberately hid their whereabouts, ordinary people would not be able to detect them. Chainer, Nalan Yan's face darkened as she quickly stepped down from the phoenix chair and walked toward Feng Ruqing, before raising her eyes to look at the people in front of her. She looked so worried. Feng Ruqing comfortingly patted the back of her hand and looked at those people calmly. Yi smiled indifferently. We, Deity's Gate, came here today just to seek justice for those poor girls. You can rest assured that we will not hurt the innocent. Snap. Gu Yi took off her shoes and threw it in Yi's face. Yi's face sank as he glanced at Gu Yi coldly. Seek justice for your shit. Does that man, Nan Xian, have the right to make my Shaoqing jealous of him? Do you think all women like him? Yuck. It's that jealous man who prevents us from approaching Shaoqing. If you're capable of fighting, just go and settle with Nan Xian, not with my Shaoqing. Yi was speechless. Get out. In the crowd, another unknown person had carried the banquet table in front of them and threw it at Yi. Yi reacted faster this time and dodged quickly by moving to the side. His eyes were furious, and his gaze was filled with murderous intent. These damn people. He only wanted to help them settle this annoying woman, but they were so ungrateful, damn it. Me for extra chapters. Who wants to be Nan Xian's concubine? The girl's face blushed red as she pointed at Yi and started to curse. Those are all things that bastard Mu Ling did on his own. How many years has it been since you've been to Tianshan Manor? How come you are so behind on information? Who's going to be Nan Xian's concubine? Only a shameless woman like Qin Feier plots to steal someone else's man. Even if we want to be the concubines, we will only be Maiden Feng's concubine. Yi was speechless. He seemed to be in some discomfort. Sui calmly looked at the girl who spoke just now and secretly wrote her name down in her notebook. Well, one of the concubines that Mu Ling had found for Nan Xian. It seemed like she was a girl from the Ouyang family. She met Chainer at the Mu family's evening feast and often came to the Mu family to visit her, but was stopped by the Mu family every time. She thought that this girl was just curious about Chainer, but she did not expect her to have such feelings toward Chainer. I've to tell Nan Xian so that he can be cautious with her. Yi was about to say something, but he was interrupted by a voice. So, you are the one causing trouble in Luyun Kingdom. Do you think the princess has killed an innocent person? The people of Deity's Gate are too nosy, aren't you? If the princess has been ruthless with the innocent and beautiful girl, then the women in this world. Well, surely they won't be bewitched by her, and I won't be single until now. We have been waiting for the princess to marry, but now you're here to ruin her wedding ceremony. Do you know how long we've been waiting for this day? Even if she is married, there are still many girls who still won't give up on her. And if she never gets married, will there still be girls in the world left for us? Chapter 1406, Princess is the enemy of all men in the world. Do you know that the princess is the enemy of all men in the world? Whoever destroys her marriage will take her place as the enemy of all men in the world. Feng Ruqing's face darkened. It was as if she was not allowed ever to get married. Yi was even angrier than Feng Ruqing. Are these people crazy? Why are they still defending her so much when she had done such a god-awful thing? She was so jealous that she forbade her husband to take a concubine, so should the men of this world not sneer at her? And those girls. Perhaps one day, Feng Ruqing would set the rule that no man in Luyun Kingdom was allowed to have a concubine. When that time came, they would have no way to serve as concubines if they wanted to. Stupid. A bunch of stupid people. Yi's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Our Deity's Gate tried to help you, but you still defend this vicious woman. Since you are so supportive of her, it'll make all of you regret it. Yi Yi was clearly pissed off. Initially, he came here to deal with Feng Ruqing, and to seek justice for the innocent. But he had not expected these people to be so ungrateful. A murderous intent flashed in Yi Yi's eyes, and in an instant, he had already leaped in front of Feng Ruqing. Feng Ruqing looked as calm as ever. Her red dress fluttered in the wind, and her expression remained the same, even in the face of Yi Yi's sudden attack. Meanwhile, outside the imperial city, high above the mountains, a violent sound rang out, pinning down part of a mountain on the opposite side. Smoke and dust rose everywhere. Hu Qing took a few steps back and laughed wildly. Nan Changfeng, I created a group of holy warriors in Deity's Gate, and now those warriors are all within Luyun Kingdom. I guess the 9th Emperor is dead by now. Ha ha ha. Nan Xian suddenly tightened his grip on his longsword. He raised his hand, surging out a long, violent wind that rushed toward Hu Qing fiercely. Little Qing Han's brain buzzed and turned blank when she heard Hu Qing's words. The 9th Emperor is dead. Mother is dead. Me for extra chapters. Why? Back then, the 9th Emperor did not wait for her to take the human form before leaving. She never got to enjoy her warm embrace either. It was hard. She had a hard time looking for her mother and getting back to the 9th Emperor, but why? Was she still killed? You killed mother. Qing Han suddenly lifted her eyes and looked at Hu Qing coldly. To her, the 9th Emperor was like her mother. She raised her well and had accompanied her through the long years. She was able to see her again in this life and become the 9th Emperor's child as she had wished back then. She would not allow anyone to hurt her mother. Little kid, Hu Qing smirked and looked at little Qing Han in his hands. Initially, I was just using you to lure the people around her away. That damn woman has put me in such a miserable situation. There's no way I'm going to let her go. Instantly, countless vines appeared from the ground, like long dragons, swiftly and powerfully headed toward Hu Qing. Her eyes were red with anger. Her small face was filled with rage, and her little body no longer struggled, allowing Hu Qing to hold her in his hands easily. Hu Qing was unconcerned as he raised his hand to grab the vines that were coming at him. Chapter 1407, He only wanted her to be happy. Hu Qing hastily retracted his hand after touching the vines. He raised his palm and felt that his palm was already red hot. The burning sensation spread from his palm to his heart. He loosened his hand that was carrying little Qing Han, letting her body fall from his grasp. Nan Xian instantly stepped forward, grabbed little Qing Han's lapel, and pulled her to his side. On top of that cold expression, there was a hint of disdain. Of course, it was only to little Qing Han. If little Qing Han had not called him father, he would not have even caught in time and would have simply let her fall to the ground. Hu Qing's face suddenly darkened, and he laughed out coldly. Nan Xian, it's too late for you to rush back now, and even if you do, I'm afraid that you might not be able to escape from me. I won't let you do what you want, he grunted coldly as his body transformed into a sword and swiftly moved toward Nan Xian. Nan Xian shielded little Qing Han behind him and braced for the attack from Hu Qing. However, before Hu Qing could reach in front of Nan Xian, a purple robe suddenly came and landed in front of him. Boom! Dust was stirred up from the ground and covered the sky. The man's purple robe flew up in the violent wind. His evil and handsome face looked cold and arrogant. The purple lightning symbol beneath his eyes had changed a little, but it was always much smaller than when he was in the Divine Herbs sect. Leave this man to me. You go find her. Jiu Ming smirked. His voice was firm and undeniable. Nan Xian was silent for a moment. All right. He had more important things to do. Just as Nan Xian turned around, that evil cold voice came from the back again, causing him to stop in his tracks. Nan Xian, I've given her to you. If you make her sad, Jiu Ming paused. I, Jiu Ming, will definitely not let you go. Even if you die, I will find you in hell. The man raised his handsome face. His voice gradually dissipated with the wind, but his words were stuck in his mind for a long time. Nan Xian stood behind the man. His robe was as white as snow, untouched by the dust. His gaze remained cold and arrogant. Me for extra chapters. Thank you. Feng Ruqing did not understand Jiu Ming's feelings for her, but he could see it. That kind of gaze that only a rival had. He could feel it. He did a commendable job by letting her go. He could actually go to the palace to find Qing'er and not come here. But he was still here after all. So, for the first time, Nan Xian thanked him. Even if it was only for Qing'er. If you want to thank me, then use your life to love and protect her. Nan Xian, I hope you'll let me know that I'm making the right choice now, or you'll regret letting you go back to marry her. Because she deserved it. Deserved to be loved by someone who cared for her with all his heart and all his soul. He only hoped that he had made the right choice now, or else he would surely regret it for the rest of his life. Nan Xian walked away. He carried little Qing Han in his hands and, like a light breeze, disappeared without a trace. Hu Qing looked at the man in front of him angrily. It's you again, bastard. Aren't you done yet? You love the 9th Emperor. Why did you come and help Nan Xian? Isn't he your rival? Chapter 1408, He only wanted her to be happy too. A smile hung on the corners of Jiu Ming's mouth. He recalled his first encounter with her a few years ago. The girl was still as fat as a giant mountain, yet somehow she had managed to capture his heart so easily. You will never understand, he paused and smiled warmly. To me, I'm willing to give everything only to protect her and see her smile. If the price for me to get her is that she loses all her laughter, then that kind of life for her. It's not what I want. He liked Feng Ruqing the way she was. Her gestures and smiles. Her joys and sorrows. If the cost of getting her was so terrible that it would make her hold a grudge against him, what was the point of having her like that? Maybe you've never liked a girl, and you'll never understand what I'm doing. She liked Nan Xian. So, he would let him go. He did not want to make himself a burden to her. Now that he thought about it, Qing'er misunderstanding him and Nan Xian had a great benefit to him as well. At least, she would not resent his presence. They could always get along like this. What are you babbling about? Hu Qing was furious, and his face was livid. Who says I haven't liked girls? My future wife, Yuan, is me next door neighbor. Qian, my youngest girl. Zhu. Oh yes, the most popular courtesan from Welcome Spring Courtyard, Xiao Xinxin. All of them are my favorite girls. How dare you say I don't understand? Jiu Ming was speechless. If it weren't for the 9th Emperor, would these girls have run away from me? The courtesan I liked back then would only dance for the 9th Emperor. Hee. She's a girl, but why was she visiting a brothel? She was even one step ahead of me in saving Xinxin. If it wasn't for her, Xinxin would have fallen in love with me. Jiu Ming was stunned. Why did he always have a feeling that Nan Xian's life would not be that easy? He could stop the men, but not the girls who were like wild bees and butterflies. Little Qing'er was too gentle with girls. Why was she saving a courtesan? And why did she visit a brothel? Me for extra chapters. Somehow, Jiu Ming had some sympathy for Hu Qing. No wonder he hates Qing'er so much. What a crushing blow it must have been for him to discover that the girl he loved had run away with another girl. A man who had always been proud of himself, but had allowed his pride to be trampled on. No wonder he kept pestering little Qing'er like this. All of this is really little Qing'er's fault. Jiu Ming slowly walked toward Hu Qing. It was only after hearing Jiu Ming's words that Hu Qing's face was calm again. See, there's finally someone who is on my side. Those people back then had mistreated him. They did not even understand the sorrow in his heart. It's her fault that, Zhou Ming smiled evilly. She's so charming, and you can't do anything about that. My Qing'er didn't ask for it. But those people prefer to chase after her. Is that wrong? Hu Qing's face darkened after hearing Zhou Ming's words. You're asking for death. Asshole. How attractive can a woman be? Is it enough to attract other women? Obviously, the ninth emperor had deliberately flirted with the girls. They did not even know her gender. She was deliberately cheating. People should hate a liar like her. No one should love her. Hu Qing's anger grew. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes as he rushed toward Zhou Ming. Zhou Ming's face turned serious, no longer having an evil smile that he had just now. He looked at Hu Qing, who was rushing to him, calmly. The wind around him started to rise, making his purple robe lift in the wind. Chapter 1409, He only wanted her to be happy. 3 Imperial Palace. The palace was decorated with colorful lights. Feng Ruqing stood among thousands of people in a red dress, enchanting the whole city. Naylan Yen held the long sword in her hand. Her gaze was stern as she looked at the group of skilled masters in front of her. The blood had stained the palace hall red, dyeing all the lanterns inside. Mu Qingqin protected Gu Yi behind him. The man's body was like a giant mountain standing still, giving her a full sense of security. For some reason, every time she was protected by a man like this, Gu Yi's heart could not help but beat faster. She felt warm and at ease. Shao Qing. Tang Yin was anxious and hurriedly rushed toward Feng Ruqing as she saw the people from Deity's Gate had already surrounded her. Right at this moment, Naylan Jing tightly pulled Tang Yin's hand and pushed her to Qin Yi's side. Mother, you help me watch over her. I'll go to help my cousin. Tang Yin was pushed hard into Qin Yi's arms. She was stunned and wanted to rush out again, but Qin Yi had already pulled her into her arms, not giving her the chance to leave. Iner, you're a girl. What can you do there? Stay here, and don't move. Your uncle Naylan and Jing'er will help them. Her tightly clenched fists revealed barely controlled anger. Seeing the Empress family under siege. How could she, as a courtier, sit idly by and do nothing? But she still had Dyer and Iner to protect. She could not act recklessly. Furthermore, these wars were no longer something she could engage in, not even Zhangqian and Jing'er could resist them. Qin Yi's eyes were increasingly filled with determination. Everyone bears responsibility for the fate of the kingdom. This was the choice she had made back then during the siege of the 6 kingdoms. However, this time the enemy was even more powerful than it once was. If Jing'er and her husband could not deal with the enemies, then, after she settled Dyer and Iner, she would also fight for Luyun Kingdom. The people had started to kill each other. Those people from the reclusive world came here to participate in the wedding ceremony, but they were only acquaintances with Fengyun Manor and even Tianshan Manor. The relationship was not so strong that they would risk their life and death for these people. However, these people somewhat agreed with Yi Yi's words, and they were not foolish enough to make an enemy of the current Deity's Gate. Me for extra chapters. On the contrary, those people in Luyun Kingdom were much more bloody. They understood that if the kingdom fell, there would no longer be a home for them in this world. With the destructive nature of Deity's Gate, it would not be possible for them to destroy Luyun Kingdom. Moreover, the disaster they experienced back then had taught them not to retreat in any battle quickly. So what if they were not strong enough? At least they were. The people of Luyun Kingdom. Yi Yi's eyes were fierce. These people are willing to sacrifice their lives for Feng Ruqing. Is it worth it? Puff. A sword slashed his shoulder as he tried to protect Gu Yi. Blood flowed out across his chest, staining his robe red. Second uncle. Gu Yi's eyes were red, almost tearing. Mu Qingyin saw the worry and heartache in her eyes, but it was too late to respond because another person had already rushed in front of him. Feng Ruqing immediately noticed it and leaped in front of Mu Qingyin. The long sword in her hand slashed at that person's chest. Blood burst out of that person's chest like a demonic flower blossoming in front of them. It was absolutely beautiful and fragrant. Feng Ruqing. Yi sneered. You can't fight against our deity's gate. Your people are dying outside this palace. If you don't want to stain the imperial city with blood, don't ever think of fighting me. Chapter 14:10. He only wanted her to be happy, for Yi thought that after he said this, all these people in Luyun Kingdom would be shocked. However, what was waiting for him was still that calm. He frowned as his voice grew colder. Could it be that your Luyun Kingdom is also so hypocritical that it doesn't care about the lives of the common people? Feng Ruqing smiled faintly. Her dark eyes were bright but contained an unreadable light. How many holy warriors has your deity's gate trained recently? How many more besides the ones that came here? Her tone was calm and unruffled, as if she was talking to a sword about something unimportant. The battle suddenly stopped, but the blood inside the hall was still red and visible. Besides the people who came here, there are several holy warriors who have already gone to the city gate. Yi smiled faintly. I knew that you'd asked Gu Shi to guard the city gate, so I've prepared a surprise for him. I'm not sure whether he will like it or not. Feng Ruqing smiled lightly. So, apart from those who have entered the palace, it's only a group of holy warriors left at the city gate, right? Yi snorted. Isn't that enough? Feng Ruqing gently rubbed her chin with her fingers. Didn't you notice that something is missing in my wedding ceremony? Before Feng Ruqing said this, Yi did not find anything missing in this hall. However, as soon as she asked him that question, he suddenly seemed to notice something, and he frowned abruptly. Other than Gu Yi, no one else from Tianshan Manor participated in this wedding ceremony. Besides Gu Shi, there were still some other skilled masters in the chief manor, and none of them were here. Anne. The young lady of Fengyun Manor was getting married, but no one from Fengyun Manor attended the ceremony. Even more so, Jiuming favored Feng Ruqing more than anything, but where were the people from Paramount? The people who were extremely important to the wedding ceremony were not here. You. Yi was stunned. Me for extra chapters. He never thought that Feng Ruqing would anticipate his move to such an extent, and she had even considered the safety of Luyun Kingdom. Seeing the discomfort on Yi's face, Feng Ruqing shrugged and smiled. My father is the emperor of Luyun Kingdom, so I naturally have to protect this kingdom for him. I won't let your deity's gate have any chance to harm my people. Moreover, there were too many lovely girls in Luyun Kingdom, and she could not bear to see those girls die. Feng Ruqing. Boom. Endless anger surged through Yi, causing his eyes to fill with rage. Feng Ruqing laughed coldly. Do you think that I have deliberately stayed in Luyun Kingdom to attract you here without reason? She did not leave Luyun Kingdom to protect her people. She had patiently endured the temptation to search for Nan Xian and Qing Han. You have kidnapped my Qing Han, tricked my man, and ruined my wedding ceremony. The young girl slowly walked toward Yi. Her voice was cold. I've enough reason to destroy your deity's gate after what you've done. The reason she left deity's gate untouched was to find Hu Qing. Now that Hu Qing had appeared, deity's gate no longer needed to exist in this mainland. The young girl stopped in her tracks and stood in front of Yi. The red dress and her fine hair fluttered even without the wind. Her beautiful face was expressionless, but the murderous intent in her eyes grew stronger. Chapter 14:11. Angry Hu Qing. Yi frowned. This woman has reached holy warrior tier. But she is only a holy warrior. What makes her think that she can destroy the entire deity's gate? However, without waiting for Yi to open his mouth, boundless energy suddenly surged, and in the blink of an eye, they were already in front of him. Yi was stunned. Why didn't the Gate Master tell me that there are other holy warriors in Luyun Kingdom besides Feng Ruqing and her family? Wait. Why did some of the holy warriors seem familiar? Feng Ruqing raised her hand. In an instant, a huge figure came from outside the hall, and with a bang, the hall's gate was smashed apart. Yi looked up stiffly, and what fell into his eyes was a huge pot, which was large enough to hold many people. But it turned into a small pot the moment it approached Feng Ruqing and fell into her palm. Maiden Feng, Emperor Xian Yuan was smiling widely, and he looked so happy. Feng Ruqing turned around and looked at him calmly. Finally, you're back. Emperor Xian Yuan's face suddenly stiffened. He knew he was wrong for running away after leaving the Divine Herbs sect that day. But someone had caught him and brought him back, and he had also brought back all the emperors of Fangzhou mainland with him. I know I have done wrong. Can't Maiden Feng forgive my mistake? Next time, I'll break your legs if you try to run again. Feng Ruqing snorted lightly. Emperor Xian Yuan was not weak, but he was as cowardly as a mouse. He was afraid that he would offend Hu Qing if he stayed in Luyun Kingdom. But at the same time, he did not dare to disobey Feng Ruqing, so ran away to escape from both of them. He. Even if he fled to the ends of the earth, she would bring him back and make him submit to her. Buzz! The small pot let out a buzzing sound, scaring Emperor Xian Yuan. His face turned pale, standing straight, not daring to say more. The other emperors stood calmly, looking at Feng Ruqing with respect. Me for extra chapters. What has happened now? Yi clenched his fists tightly as he coldly scanned the familiar faces in front of him. Amongst them, apart from those emperors of Fangzhou mainland, there were also some people he was familiar with. He had even worked with them not long ago. But now, these people were respectfully standing in front of Feng Ruqing with a light in their eyes that he could not understand. Qing'er. Feng Tianyu turned to Feng Ruqing, confused. Feng Ruqing smiled faintly. It seems that the battle at the city gate has ended. The people in front of them now were all the ones who had attacked the city gates. Little Pot had returned, so this battle. It had only started not long ago, and it should almost be over. The long sword in Feng Ruqing's hand penetrated the cold mane as she approached Yi. Where is Hu Qing? I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't know who Hu Qing is. Yi gritted his teeth tightly. Indeed, he did not know who Hu Qing was. After all, Hu Qing was using the identity of Deity's Gate Master. But, Yi sneered. Do you think that you will be able to defeat us like this? Ha ha ha. Neither Nan Xian nor Jiu Ming is in Luyun Kingdom now. I'll see who else can protect you this time. Yi raised his hand and took out a talisman. Chapter 14:12, Angry Hu Qing too. Even though Feng Ruqing did not know what this talisman was for, but within this talisman, she felt an infinite amount of energy. This energy was so powerful and somewhat terrifying, and even more shocking. Yi violently tore apart the talisman in front of everyone present. A horrifying smile played on his lips. Ha ha ha. From now on, this mainland belongs to our deity's gate. He moved his eyes and looked at those who looked frightened again. His voice was a little gentler. But you don't have to worry too much. Deity's Gate only wants to destroy Luyun Kingdom. If you haven't done anything wrong in this world, we naturally won't execute you. Because the one who got married this time was the young master of the Mu family of Tianshan Manor and the young lady of Fengyun Manor. So, all the major and small forces in the reclusive world would come to participate in the ceremony. Many forces did not attend the Divine Herbs sect assembly not long ago. Of course, many of the forces from the reclusive world only cared about benefits, not feelings. They would not allow themselves to fall into a land of doom and die only to help Fengyun Manor. Therefore, Their hearts suddenly filled with fear as they saw the talisman that Yi Yi had torn off. But they eventually suppressed their panic and began to speak. Elder Yi Yi is right. He is here to claim justice. Deity's Gate has never killed innocents indiscriminately, unlike Fengyun Manor and Luyun Kingdom. They are so cruel, and they have killed countless innocents in this world. The worst is, you killed people because of jealousy. Why do women hurt women? I really don't know how Master Nan Xian can stand such an overbearing woman like you. Maiden Tan, you don't have to be afraid. Today, we're here to stand up for you. Since you're in love with Master Nan Xian, we'll naturally help you, and this woman can't do anything to you again, but everyone in the reclusive world could detect something unusual about that talisman. Even if there were many people on Feng Ruking's side, they would still know where to side. Emperor Xian Yuan's legs weakened, and he almost fell to the ground. It was over. He knew that no one who got involved with Feng Ruqing would have a good ending. He knew that Feng Ruqing had already predicted what would happen today, so she had caught him and brought him here as a backup. Now, he also understood what the phrase women's hearts are the most poisonous meant. Compared to these people, Tan Shuang's eyes clearly showed a touch of hope. She did not dare come here because she was afraid of Feng Ruqing doing something to her. Me for extra chapters. But what if Feng Ruqing was defeated? Then, she could get rid of Feng Ruqing and take her place back. Perhaps it was the thought of all she was going to get that made her less panicked than before. At the same time, on top of the mountain, there was a loud bang. Powerful energy rushed toward Jiu Ming, causing him to fall backward abruptly and spit a mouthful of blood. His handsome face was pale. Hu Qing sneered. As expected, you have used a secret method to increase your strength to become so powerful, and now you are simply unbearable. You're not even as strong as that brat, Nan Changfeng. Jiu Ming did not know who Nan Changfeng was, but he did not ask. He merely wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Even if I'm not as strong as whoever that is, I won't let anyone ruin her wedding ceremony. Chapter 14:13, Angry Hu Qing 3, Boy, is it worth saving a rival? Hu Qing frowned. You're obviously not my match, so why did you help him leave? Because, Jiu Ming smirked. He needed to go to the wedding ceremony to fulfill his promise to her. So, he came to replace him. It was the only way for Nan Xian to get back as quickly as possible. It was a pity. He would not be able to watch her wedding ceremony. Nor could he see her smile. You think you'll look great like this? In my opinion, you're just an idiot, and since you have brought this on yourself, don't blame me. Hu Qing's eyes were filled with rage. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he rushed toward Jiu Ming. I must kill this brat. He would not let anyone who was so infatuated with the 9th Emperor go. Even if he had to give up chasing Nan Changfeng, he had to kill the brat first. With a smile still on his lips, Jiu Ming slowly stood up. His body staggered a bit as if he had lost the strength to stand firm. But he still stood upright like a pine bamboo, and the high wall, blocking the enemy in front of him. Boom! Another punch fell. Jiu Ming raised his hand to block it, but his strength was weak after all, and it sent him flying out again. Blood flowed out of his mouth, incessantly. Hu Qing sneered. This time, he gathered all his strength in his fist. And Jiu Ming no longer had much ability to resist. If this punch landed, he would definitely be greatly crippled even if he did not die. With a crazy smile on his face, Hu Qing swooped toward Jiu Ming at lightning speed. Foolish. This is what happens when you help the 9th Emperor like this. Those girls who liked the 9th Emperor. He could not bear to kill them. But facing men. Oh, did he think Hu Qing would show mercy on him? Me for extra chapters. Hu Qing could imagine the sorrow in Feng Ruking's face, and he, even more so, could not help but laugh out wildly. Jiu Ming raised his head and looked directly at Hu Qing. His evil cold eyes were devoid of any emotion, and his face remained unchanged, seemingly indifferent to his attack. His expression had made Hu Qing even more enraged as he slammed his fist down, hard. However, just as his fist was about to fall, a black mist instantly wrapped around his body, and he suddenly disappeared without a trace. Jiu Ming was stunned. In an instant, his eyes filled with infinite panic as he pushed his hands hard against the ground and got up from the ground. Shao Qing. I have to go back and find Shao Qing. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and suddenly fell back to the ground. Inside the palace. While Yi Yi laughed wildly, a mass of black fog gradually appeared. From within that black mist, an old man with a livid face emerged with anger and murderous intent in his eyes. Yi Yi. That roar made Yi Yi stop laughing abruptly. His laughter stuck in his throat. Yi Yi stared blankly at Hu Qing, not understanding what he had done wrong for the gate master to be so angry with him. His gate master was the one who had clearly said that he could summon him even if he had not been able to kill Feng Ruqing. He had only followed his gate master's words. Chapter 14:14, Feng Ruking's rage. Hu Qing was furious, and his face darkened. He looked at Yi Yi with eyes that were filled with murderous intent. It was just one step away. Jiu Ming, who had blocked him, almost died in his hands. But Yi Yi had torn apart the talisman Hu Qing had given to him, causing that brat to be saved from death. Gate Master, did I do something wrong? Yi Yi felt aggrieved. He did not know what mistake he had made that had caused the gate master to be so furious. Boom! Hu Qing fiercely raised his hand and sent Yi Yi flying out of the palace. Yi Yi fell to the ground helplessly and spat out a mouthful of blood. Rubbish! You can't even handle such a simple task, and yet you still have to call me at such a time. If Yi Yi could have torn the talisman a moment later, perhaps Jiu Ming would have already died in Hu Qing's hand. How could he tolerate this damned bastard who had ruined his plan? Looking at Hu Qing, who suddenly appeared through the void, Feng Ruqing subconsciously pulled Nailan Yan and Feng Tianyu behind her. Nailan Yan lightly patted Feng Ruking's shoulder and smiled faintly. Qing'er, don't be afraid. No matter what happens, Mother will definitely be by your side. Life and death, we will never leave each other. Qin Chen and Feng Tianyu were also standing next to her with a solemn gaze. Humph. Hu Qing snorted coldly, slightly disdainful as he looked at Feng Ruqing. He sneered and said, You have harmed me to such an extent back then, and now it's your turn. Your future husband and that little girl have died in my hands. They died for you. You've killed them. Ha ha ha. He wanted her to suffer. It'll make you feel the pain of being abandoned by the ones you love. But, I've been abandoned by more than one lover. The whole world has abandoned me. Feng Ruking's face remained calm, and there were no emotions in her dark eyes as if Hu Qing was talking about an unimportant matter. Hu Qing did not see any anger or pain on her face. He frowned. Your future husband died for you. Why aren't you sad? Me for extra chapters. Oh, Feng Ruqing smiled faintly. Because I know they're still alive. Qing Han had talked to her in the medium. Their souls were also connected through it. Whether she was dead or alive, she naturally knew better than anyone else. And for Hu Qing to say such a thing, it was probably because Nan Xian had already run away with Qing Han. Therefore, she could finally feel at ease. Feng Ruking's heart was quietly relieved, and her entire body relaxed. She was so worried since Qing Han's disappearance. Hu Qing's eyes burned with anger. He no longer spoke as his body moved like a gale as he rushed toward Feng Ruqing. Buzz! The pot in Feng Ruking's hand grew larger before it rushed toward Hu Qing. Bang! Hu Qing casually slapped away the huge pot flying toward him. It tumbled a few times before rushing toward Hu Qing again. Xiao Qing, Tang Yin's small face turned pale. She struggled several times to help Feng Ruqing, but she was hugged tightly by Qin Yin, so she could only look at her with concern and worry. She was so anxious that she was about to cry. Xiao Qing's pot obviously can't beat that bad old man. If this continues, Xiao Qing will definitely be in danger. Tang Yin had never looked forward to that bastard's appearance as much as she did now. Chapter 14-15, Feng Ruqing's rage too. Even though that bastard was her rival, she clearly understood that at such moments, only that bastard could protect her Xiao Qing. She hated herself for being cowardly and useless. Yi Yi turned and looked at Tang Yin, who was being protected by Qin Yi in her arms. He smirked. His body was like a sword, suddenly heading swiftly toward Tang Yin. Feng Ruqing was the first to notice Yi Yi, who was rushing toward Tang Yin. Her face changed dramatically as she shouted fiercely, "Auntie, Xiao Yin, run!" The people present were all shocked. As soon as they turned around, Yi Yi had already arrived in front of Tang Yin. His eyes carried an overpowering light. The sword in his hand was aimed to stab into her body without hesitation. Qin Yi's face turned pale. She could not resist his powerful energy, so she could only hastily turn her back to the incoming longsword. But Yi Yi's longsword was clearly off to the side, bypassing Qin Yi and stabbing Tang Yin instead. Young lady. Qian Ying was on the verge of tears, rushing toward Tang Yin without even thinking about it. She tried to grab the long sword in Yi Yi's hand. In the nick of time, a figure in a white dress suddenly flashed forward and jumped in front of Tang Yin. The long sword suddenly stabbed into her body. Blood flowed out, staining her white dress red. Tang Yin was stunned. What she saw was a person with a disfigured face. She was not ugly, but glowed and looked so beautiful. She never knew her. Why did she save her? Tang Yin's eyes felt prickly, and she could not stop the tears from flowing down. Blood flowed from the mouth of the woman in front of her. Her chest was red with blood, bright and hard to watch. Xiaoya, Feng Ruqing rushed forward and landed in front of Xiaoya. She took out a bottle of spirit soup and threw it to her. Drink it and wait for me at the side. Xiaoya caught the spirit soup, but the intense pain still made her face pale and colorless. Me for extra chapters. She obeyed and stood aside. Her eyes remained calm, expressionless. Feng Ruqing raised her hand and slapped Yi Yi at the back of his head. There was a buzzing sound, and Yi Yi's entire mind went blank. She lifted her leg again and kicked Yi Yi in the abdomen, sending him flying away. Yi Yi spurted out a mouthful of blood and looked at Feng Ruqing helplessly. Before he could say another word, Feng Ruqing's foot had landed on him, stepping hard on his face. The young girl remained silent. Her gaze was cold, and her eyes looked calm as ever. In the meantime, it was not that Hu Qing did not want to kill Feng Ruqing, but this little pot was too strong to handle. Even if it could not beat Hu Qing, it still dared to come back every time after being thrown out of the sky, blocking Hu Qing's path. Hu Qing was furious and was burning with fire. Damned pot! How dare you try to stop me? Today, I will melt you down completely. When the little pot saw the flames around Hu Qing, it paused and feared a little. It looked at Feng Ruqing behind it before it continued to attack Hu Qing fearlessly. There was silence in the palace. No one spoke. Lying on the ground, Yi Yi kept spitting out blood, and even his lapels were stained red with blood. He had noticed that this little girl was Feng Ruqing's close friend. So, he wanted to kill her friend to please the gate master. Unexpectedly, he had never thought that Feng Ruqing would be so furious. If he were to be given another chance, he would never hit this little girl again. Chapter 14-16, the family must unite. Feng Ruching was expressionless, condescendingly looking down at Yi Yi, who was being stepped on by her. Feng, before he could utter another word, the foot on his face slammed into his face again, hard enough to make him spit out a mouthful of blood. What did you just say? Feng Ruching's gaze was cold as if she was looking at a dead man. Yi Yi was just about to speak when Feng Ruching lifted her leg and stomped on him again. Yi Yi's chest hurt, and blood continued to flow as he stared at the wound, filled with panic. Both of them were holy warriors, but why did he have no room to fight back in Feng Ruching's hands? The people he had brought with him were all stopped by Feng Ruching's men, so much so that he could not even find anyone to call for help. What did you want to say just now? Say it now. I'm not the kind of person who doesn't let people talk. Yi Yi's was so angry that he almost spurted out a mouthful of blood again. His face darkened. This girl. What exactly did she want him to say? Yi Yi trembled for a moment before he said these 3 words, I am sorry, what did you say? I'm sorry, my ears aren't working. I didn't hear it clearly. Looking at the young girl's indifferent gaze, fear filled up Yi Yi's heart, even his voice trembled as if an endless fear was swallowing his sanity. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have attacked your people to please the gate master. Please let me go. I have parents and children, and I still have my young, beautiful wife waiting for me. Maiden Feng, I know I was wrong. Please let me go. Feng Ruching was like a demon in his eyes, ready to snatch away his life. Any pretensions were like nothing in the face of death. Yi Yi was crying so hard. No one can associate it with the arrogant and domineering person he was just now. As if she had not heard Yi Yi's plea for mercy, Feng Ruching raised her sword and stabbed him without hesitation. Yi Yi's eyes widened as blood spurted out of his neck. He then gradually stopped breathing in front of everyone. Blood seeped out from his body, staining the entire ground red. Me for extra chapters. Feng Ruching put away her sword, and calmly turned her gaze toward the others in front of her. The coldness that emanated from her eyes made those skilled masters of Deity's Gate shiver. Seeing what had happened to Yi Yi, those who had just injured her people with their hands panicked. The 9th Emperor. Hu Qing shouted furiously. Flame surged out of his hand and landed on the pot. The pot was thrown some distance away, and by the time it flew back again, Hu Qing was already in front of Feng Ruching. His eyes were filled with humiliation and resentment. Killing his men in front of him was the equivalent to stepping his face into the ground. It was something that he absolutely could not tolerate. You're looking for death. Boom. The flames seemed like a storm, surging out fiercely. The intense temperature caused the surrounding air to become scorching hot. Not only Feng Ruching, even those around her, felt the scalding heat as if their entire bodies were in a fireplace. Feng Ruching's breathing now became slightly erratic as she gazed hard at Hu Qing. I don't understand why you're pestering me, could it be that I once stole your man away? Chapter 14-17, The family must unite. The girls in this mainland hated her because she had stolen the state preceptor away from them. This guy. Could it be that he was also secretly in love with the state preceptor? That was why he was so jealous of her. How great would it be if everyone in the world who loved the state preceptor were as lovely as Zhou Ming? Why did each one of them haunt her? Who knew that as soon as this was said, Hu Qing became even more furious. The flames in his fist became more fierce as he swung a fist at Feng Ruching. This damned girl disgusted him so much. He was not a pervert. Why would he like a man? Only this girl would be perverted enough to go around hitting on the same gender, picking up girls, and stealing the girls that belonged to him. The pot finally came back to its senses. It shook its muddled head from the fall and immediately leaped in front of Feng Ruching, blocking the attack. Bang! Hu Qing's fist smashed the pot's body. The flames were so hot that the pot body flattened down as if it had been melted. Feng Ruqing's eyes were bloodshot as she raised her hand and slapped the small pot a few meters away. Only after seeing it move away from Hu Qing did she turn her attention to him. It seems like you really hate me because I stole your man, but just because you're so perverted doesn't mean that everyone else is as perverted as you are. The state preceptor will always be my man. You shut up. Hu Qing was burning with rage. This damn girl. She is calling me a pervert. However, his reaction seemed like he was annoyed that she had hit the nail on the head. Qing'er, Nalan Yan's face was covered in sweat under the flames. She stood close to Feng Ruqing, not daring to leave her daughter alone. Sometimes, I think to myself. If only I could be stronger, I would never let my loved ones get hurt again. Back then, she was the strongest in Luyun Kingdom. The youngest spirit warrior. Me for extra chapters. No one in Luyun Kingdom was her match. But she had met the even more powerful Divine Herbs sect. To protect her family, she had no choice but to leave her husband and daughter, and suffer all the hardships alone. She thought her bitterness was over, but now she had met Hu Qing, who was more powerful than the Divine Herbs sect. And she still was not strong enough to protect her daughter. Mother, this grudge is between him and me. So, you take the others and leave. And find Nanxian. While she had just deliberately said so many words, she had made Hu Qing pay full attention to her. She was afraid that someone would become like Yi Yi, attacking her family. Hu Qing's eyes were only focused on her. He was so furious that he could not care about anything else, all he wanted to do was break her into pieces. What nonsense are you talking about? Sui smiled faintly. We have become a family since the moment you chose to marry Nanxian. The family must unite. How can we leave you behind? If she fled and left Feng Ruqing behind, her son would never let her go. Feng Ruqing saw the determination in Sui's eyes. The others were also unwilling to leave. She could only smile helplessly, knowing that no matter what she said, these family members of hers would not leave her behind. The flames around Hu Qing were even more intense. He roared and rushed toward Feng Ruqing. An old face with a monstrous rage, so terrifying. Chapter 14:18, Nanxian has returned. However, before Hu Qing could reach Feng Ruqing, countless vines appeared and instantly wrapped around Hu Qing's body. The flames around Hu Qing's body burned the vines, but it did not loosen. Like ropes, they tied him firmly. Feng Ruqing was startled. She raised her eyes slightly, and her eyes followed the vine. Soon, she saw two figures, one large and one small. Little Qing Han pounced in through the door. Her soft little body jumped right into Feng Ruqing's arms. Even her voice was soft and cute. Mother, I'm back. Ever since little Qing Han had disappeared, Feng Ruqing's heart had never been at ease. After she saw this little kid was safe and sound, she finally breathed a sigh of relief, smiled and raised her hand to hug the little girl in her arms tightly. You're back, it's great. My Qing Han is safe. Immediately, Feng Ruqing raised her eyes and looked at the man who walked in from outside the palace. The man was dressed in a white, clean, and elegant robe. He was like an immortal, beautiful beyond the ordinary, as if he was the only lotus on a cloud mountain. Nanxian, the moment she saw the man again, she could not take her eyes off him. The man's gaze fell on her, so gentle and affectionate. Qing'er, sorry I'm late, Feng Ruqing shook her head with a light smile. It's not too late, because you've returned after all. As long as you're back, then it's never too late. I promised you that I would return. Nanxian stopped in his tracks. He scanned Feng Ruqing's body before landing on her abdomen. Me for extra chapters. Recently, the young girl's abdomen was already visible. Feng Ruqing was always protective of the child in her abdomen, not allowing her child suffer the slightest harm. But The situation would have been difficult to handle if Nan Xian and Qing Han had not rushed back. "Mother," little Qing Han cried. "Just now, this villain lied to me. He said that mother is dead. I can't live without mother." Feng Ruqing turned to Qing Han and saw the tears on her face. She then turned to Hu Qing and stared at him coldly. Boom! With a single push, Hu Qing ripped the vines off. His eyes flashed with a cold light as he continued to rush toward Feng Ruqing. Nan Xian raised his hand and pulled the Feng Ruqing into his arms. His sleeves lifted in the wind, and with a bang, powerful energy spread out from around the two of them, blowing the whole palace. Those around them were even more unable to withstand this power and flew out backward. Feng Ruqing was protected by Nan Xian in her arms so that she was not harmed in any way from this powerful force. "You!" Hu Qing was livid. Nan Changfeng. The ninth emperor's dog back then is still following her even in this life. Hu Qing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and smiled coldly. "I'll let you go today, but I'll settle the score with you in the future." Nan Changfeng's strength had somehow increased quite a bit, and it would not do him any good if he continued. Anyway, the time would come soon. And he would have plenty of opportunities to settle scores with them. Chapter 14:19, The wedding ceremony was finally completed. Just as Hu Qing turned away for a moment, Nan Xian was already in front of him, blocking him from leaving. Hu Qing's face became so fierce as he raised his fist to punch Nan Xian. Nan Xian moved a little to the other side and dodged Hu Qing's punch. He failed to retract the power in his fist, thus, collapsing the ancient tree outside the palace with a single punch. A powerful and suffocating pressure came from the front. It was so powerful that it could make everyone's breath be caught in their throats. Feng Ruqing frowned. Nan Xian left for a while after Fangzhou mainland was destroyed. He did not go looking for her, and now his strength had increased quite a bit compared to before. She might have to work harder to catch up with Nan Xian's level of strength. Sui calmly walked toward Feng Ruqing and smiled faintly. "Qing'er, I've said that Nan Xian can protect you." Her son was her pride. How could she be at ease if her son could not even protect his woman, like Mu Ling back then? Little Guogua had come back to its senses. It shook its head and instantly rushed toward Hu Qing. Hu Qing could not even deal with Nan Xian in front of him, let alone little Guogua. Therefore, when little Guogua slammed him down, he could not dodge it and was hit with a thud. His vision became blurry, and his mind went blank. Buzz! Little Guogua roared angrily as if it wanted to vent out all the frustration and shame it had suffered. The whole palace became dead silent. Aside from the buzzing sound of the small pot, there was nothing else that could be heard. Everyone in Luyun Kingdom was subconsciously relieved, looking at Nan Xian in admiration and respect. On the other hand, those in the reclusive world were nervous, wishing to find a place to hide and never want to appear again. Feng Ruqing bent down and tried to pick little Qing Han up. Little Qing Han quickly moved to the side, avoiding Feng Ruqing's embrace. Me for extra chapters. Mother is pregnant with a baby. Qing Han can no longer let mother hug me like before. Just now, Qing Han did not hold back before jumping on mother. Qing Han will pay more attention in the future. The little sister in her mother's belly had not been born yet, so she must be more careful. If she hurt her little sister, it would be bad. Feng Ruqing touched little Qing Han's head. This little girl's concern made her feel touched. This little girl was an old spirit that had lived for 1,000 years, but her mind was immature, and she was simply like an innocent child that always softened her heart. Because the palace was too packed, Nan Xian and Hu Qing had gone outside at some point. Hu Qing was filled with anxiety, and his eyes sank as he looked at Nan Xian, who was rushing toward him. This time, he did not dodge Nan Xian's attack, nor did he fight against him. His chest was facing the long sword in the man's hand that was heading toward him. The long sword in Nan Xian's hand pierced through Hu Qing's heart. Hu Qing smiled proudly as if he was the final victor. Boom! Hu Qing collapsed in front of everyone. His body heavily hit the ground and fell into a pool of blood. Chapter 1420, The wedding ceremony was finally completed. Those in the palace were stunned, perhaps not understanding why Hu Qing did not resist it. But what seemed more surprising was, he had not even dodged, as if he had deliberately asked Nan Xian to kill him. Everyone could see the cold smile in Hu Qing's eyes as he fell to the ground. Suddenly, his voice echoed through the palace, causing everyone to stare at him with shock. The crowd only saw a figure gradually scattered on top of the old man's body. It was a pale young man who was quite handsome, and his entire body was transparent, swaying in the breeze. Ha ha ha! Nan Changfeng, I want to thank you for helping me leave this old man's body. Hu Qing's voice was gloomy, and he laughed out loud wildly. I don't have a body now, so you can't do anything about it. When I find another body in the future, I will come back to settle the score with you. He hated Jiu Luo's body. He was actually relieved that now he had finally escaped from it. He could not help but smiled proudly as he thought that these people would be shocked, angry, and looked helpless. But when he looked up for a moment, he found that the man in front of him was still as calm as the wind. Soon, the man looked up slightly, looking at the top of his head. Hu Qing was visibly startled. The top of his head had been shrouded in shadow and was completely different from what he had expected. He could not help but raise his head. A huge pot was like a black cloud, completely enveloping his head. For some reason, after seeing this huge pot, Hu Qing's heart trembled. He suddenly had a bad feeling about it. But before he could escape, the huge pot had already lifted the lid wide open. It then swallowed his entire soul in one gulp and slammed the lid back on. Let me out. You let me out. Hu Qing's angry and anxious voice could be heard from inside the pot. But no one paid any attention to him, and the entire palace was in silence. Feng Ruqing raised his hand, and the huge pot instantly shrank, transforming into a bowl-sized form that landed in Feng Ruqing's hand. Mother, little Qing Han took Feng Ruqing's hand and said softly. Is he dumb? Why would he seek his own death when father obviously could not kill him? Even though the state preceptor's strength had increased quite a bit, but at most, he was only slightly stronger than Hu Qing, and it was still a bit difficult to kill him here. Me for extra chapters. But this Hu Qing was too anxious to leave this place, so he had deliberately sought death by crashing into Nan Xian's sword. He thought that when he was free from that body, Nan Xian would be unable to do anything to him. Unfortunately, little Guogua could swallow anything, a body, or even a soul. So what he had done just now was like moving a stone just to smash his own feet. Feng Ruqing stroked her chin and smiled. Well, he might really be a little stupid to make that choice. Little Qing Han turned to look at the huge pot. Her mouth was slightly open, and her big eyes unblinking. Somehow, Feng Ruqing actually saw a hint of drool from the corner of little Qing Han's mouth. Qing Han, you can't eat it. Feng Ruqing said solemnly, this kind of thing will give you diarrhea if you eat it. Oh, little Qing Han swallowed her saliva with a gulp, sensibly nodding. I'll listen to my mother. Feng Ruqing looked relieved. She raised her eyes and smiled gently as her gaze fell on Nan Xian. Chapter 1421, The wedding ceremony was finally completed. 3. State Preceptor, the wedding ceremony isn't over yet. I've been waiting for you to return. The man walked over and stood in front of the young girl. The moment their eyes met, it was as if the entire world's temperature had risen quite a bit. A beam of sunlight fell, dispersing the dark clouds in the sky and shining on the couple. The man's cold gaze turned warmer. I didn't have time to change into my wedding clothes. It's okay. seeing you here is more than enough. I also didn't have time to prepare for our wedding room. I've asked Qingling and Luli to prepare it. Then, let's start the wedding ceremony. Alright, the wedding ceremony was just a formality, and it did not matter if there was enough preparation or not as long as the family was there together with them. The crowd looked at the couple showing affection in front of them, and that was such an awful feeling. Did these two people even consider other people's feelings? Fortunately, at the moment, because of the mute girl's injury, Tang Yin did not have the heart to think about it too much. Otherwise, she would have definitely cursed that bastard 1,000 times again. Gu Yi bit her handkerchief and stared at Nan Xian with unwilling eyes. But looking at Feng Ruqing, who only had Nan Xian in her eyes, Gu Yi could only sigh helplessly. It's all right. After all, I will become Nan Xian's second aunt, and by then, I will have plenty of opportunities to get close to Shaoqing. As soon as she thought of this, Gu Yi was so happy that even her jealousy toward Nan Xian faded away. The wedding ceremony was held as planned. They had missed the auspicious time, the main hall had been destroyed, and even the groom had not yet changed into his wedding clothes. But the wedding ceremony was still completed. Tan Xuangshuang's body was weak and paralyzed on the ground, and her face ashen like a corpse. Because she understood that this time, be it Tianshan Manor or Luyun Kingdom, they would never let her go again. Me for extra chapters. Serene Palace. It was Feng Ruqing's bedroom before she left the palace. And it was the place where she grew up in as a child. A place where Feng Tianyu had given all the best things to her. The red veil danced. Nan Xian carried Feng Ruqing from outside the palace into the bedroom, slowly placing her on the bed. Qing'er, this wedding ceremony was delayed for 3 months due to. I've prepared a surprise for you. What? Feng Ruqing raised his head to look at Nan Xian. The man's smile was gentle and elegant, as handsome as immortal. Moonlight poured from the window, falling on the man's white robe. The man's fingers swept over the girl's fine hair. He smiled faintly as his fingers lightly caressed her abdomen. His other hand rose, and a porcelain vase fell into his palm. Feng Ruqing was stunned. She raised her hand to receive the porcelain vase from the man and gently opened it. A waft of fragrance hit her nose, leaving her refreshed, and even her stomach felt more comfortable. Some time ago, my mother-in-law said that you experience excessive nausea and vomiting. You didn't listen to her and kept fighting with people. So, I have collected this. Qing'er, Nan Xian sighed lightly and raised his hand to rub her head. You always make people worry about you. Feng Ruqing held the porcelain vase tightly. She frowned. Jiuhua Jade Du. Jiuhua Jade Du, an indispensable item in a herbal dish, but it was very difficult to obtain it. Where did Nan Xian get it from? Did he not feel that it would be such a waste if he obtained it just for her to keep the baby safe? Chapter 1422, The Destruction of Deity's Gate. You were looking for Jiuhua Jade Du, these past few days? Feng Ruqing looked up at Nan Xian. Jiuhua Jade Du could only be found in Jiuhua Mountain, and the first morning dew of the day must be collected. The terrain in Jiuhua Mountain was so steep. It was always icy and snowy all over the year. To get Jiuhua Jade Du, one needed to travel to the peak. Spirit beasts were guarding it, making it harder to get Jiuhua Jade Du. The ones guarding Jiuhua Mountain are a group of snow snakes. I sent Qing Zhu to hook up with the queen of the snow snake. Otherwise, many snow snakes would have blocked me, and I would have taken even more time to get Jiuhua Jade Du. Feng Ruqing was speechless. She suddenly pitied Qing Zhu. Qing'er, we are newly married today. Nan Xian's fingers flicked through her hair. Shouldn't we sleep? All right, it was getting late, and the cold light from outside the house poured into the room, casting down on these two. Warm and comforting. The next morning. At the beginning of the morning light, the bedroom door slowly opened. The snow wolf and other spirit beasts had already been waiting outside the door. The moment they saw the door opened, they hurriedly turned around to look. For a split second, everyone saw that dazzling red dress. Howl! The snow wolf howled in excitement and pounced toward Feng Ruching. Unfortunately, as the snow wolf jumped in front of Feng Ruching, a foot reached out and kicked it out of the way. Its body rolled a few times before coming to a stop. Howl! The snow wolf howled pitifully. Its eyes were red, and it looked so helpless. Yesterday's battle outside the city was too dangerous, and it was almost impossible to see its master again. However, thinking of the group of spirit beasts that had rescued it from danger, the snow wolf quickly stood up and stretched its muscles. As the housekeeper wolf in the princess manor, its duty was to recruit beasts for its master. The group of spirit beasts brought by the three-striped tiger clearly had no place to go, and it should have introduced these beasts to the master. Me for extra chapters. Hee hee. If its master saw that it had brought so many beasts for her, its master would definitely praise it and maybe even reward it with divine spirit fruit. Howl! The snow wolf was full of pride and even raised his wolf head a little higher. But just as it wanted to show off, a yellow figure raced past from the back, instantly heading toward Feng Ruching. The snow wolf was about to say something, but the words suddenly choked in its throat. It looked at the wolfhound that was rushing toward Feng Ruching dazedly. Perhaps those spirit beasts from Fangzhou mainland would never have thought that they would see Feng Ruching under such circumstances. The wolfhound ran swiftly in front of Feng Ruching. Initially, it wanted to jump into her arms, but after seeing the young girl's belly, it quickly paused and stopped. Back then, it had been driven away by its master because his mother was pregnant. Now, it understood that Feng Ruching was pregnant, so it did not dare to be rude anymore. It looked at Feng Ruching cautiously. One, it was abandoned for this reason back then, and it was afraid that it would be abandoned again for the same reason. It had become strong now and was no longer a stray puppy. But after all, it just wanted a family that would never abandon it and would give it peace of mind. Little wolfhound, what are you doing here? Feng Ruching crouched down and rubbed the wolfhound's small head before turning to the group of spirit beasts. Chapter 1423, The Destruction of Deity's Gate 2, Big Bunny, Little Leopard, you're all here? The snow wolf was speechless. Its smile froze, and its whole face stiffened. The snow wolf was like a stone now, unable to move. Little Wolfie, Feng Ruching finally remembered the snow wolf and looked up at it. What were you going to say to me just now? The snow wolf's face remained stiffened, still unable to move its muscles. Its gaze at the big wolfhound was no longer as friendly as before, instead, it was wary and jealous. It was afraid and jealous that the wolfhound would steal its place in its master's heart. Because this wolfhound was its master's favorite now. The snow wolf wanted to show its power in front of the other spirit beasts. It walked elegantly toward Feng Ruching and stood beside her. It then proudly raised its chin, looking down condescendingly at the wolfhound lying in front of Feng Ruching. Feng Ruching looked blankly at the snow wolf and turned to the wolfhound again, somewhat confused. Oh! The snow wolf has finally met its clan. It's a pity that little doggy is not a female, otherwise, I could have fixed you up. The snow wolf was speechless. Little Wolfie, don't worry. Next time I'll find a female for you. Little doggy is a good dog, so you don't have to worry about it stealing a female from you. Two tigers cannot share the same mountain. Same goes to two male dogs. Although the snow wolf was a wolf, it was no different from a dog in Feng Ruching's eyes. The big rabbit looked at Feng Ruching with eyes that looked like it wanted to get closer but was afraid of hurting the child in her belly. Qinger, Nan Xian walked out of the room and saw so many spirit beasts in front of him, but his tense face eased, and his eyes gradually calmed. Well. Fortunately, these are all spirit beasts. Wolfie, you take them back to the princess manor and get prepared. Feng Ruqing smiled widely. I'm going to Deity's Gate. Deity's Gate. People were singing and dancing. The dancing girls were dancing elegantly in front of the crowd. Jiu Yu was holding his beautiful concubine in his arms while drinking all the wine in his hands. He smiled proudly. Feng Ruqing. Jiu Ming. Me for extra chapters. Nan Xian. These people that he hated so much would soon die. In the future, this world will be ruled by Deity's Gate. Ha ha ha. Jiu Yu laughed wildly, thinking of what had happened to Feng Ruqing and the others. Right at this moment, a disciple came running in from outside the palace in panic. He stumbled and fell to the ground, but he did not even have time to get up, and so, he crawled to Jiu Yu's side. Young master, we're in big trouble now. The people from Fengyun Manor are here to kill us. What? Jiu Yu suddenly trembled. The wine cup in his hand rolled to the ground and broke into pieces. Fengyun Manor is here. Hu Qing. Where's my father? He had almost said Hu Qing's name, but fortunately, he managed to stop talking in time. His face darkened. I don't know. Gate Master hasn't returned yet. It had been several days since Hu Qing had left, and he still had not returned. Jiu Yu's hands were shivering, and he tried to stand up several times, but his legs were weak. It must be those bastards from Fengyun Manor who didn't go to Feng Ruqing's wedding ceremony. After finding out that my father has gone to find Feng Ruqing, they directly came here to kill our people. Well, that's definitely the case. With Hu Qing's strength, he could not be defeated by them. After all, Jiu Ming had used some unknown method to boost his strength to defeat Hu Qing, but then he was in a coma. So, no one other than Jiu Ming could be Hu Qing's match. Chapter 1424, The Destruction of Deities. 3. Jiu Yu forced himself to calm down so he could deal with what was going to happen next. Young master. Other than the people of Fengyun Manor, countless spirit beasts are coming with them. The disciple was about to cry. Young master, you must do something. Our people can't handle them anymore. Jiu Yu trembled as fear appeared in his gaze. You said spirit beasts? The spirit beast and Fengyun Manor have joined forces? It's not only that. One of them was a dog, and it can speak. The disciple really cried out this time. If not for that, he would not have been so anxious. A dog that could speak like a human? Only a spirit beast that had reached a certain level of strength was capable of speaking like a human. Jiu Yu panicked. His legs trembled as he took a few steps back. Quick! Open the underground tunnel and leave this place immediately. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The doors of the main hall crashed open, revealing the scene outside. Deity's Gate disciples fell among the pools of blood. Blood stained the entire Deity's Gate red, and it was more vivid than the sunset in the sky. In the middle of the courtyard, a young girl dressed in red leaned lazily on the recliner. She held an apple in her hand and took a bite, and it looked crisp and delicious. She leaned against a man and smiled at Jiu Yu, who was still inside the hall. The smile in those eyes was mocking, causing Jiu Yu's heart to tremble harder. Young Master Jiu Yu is really in a good mood today. You can sing and dance even after your father's death. Feng Ruqing clung to the man as she put the apple in her hand to the man's mouth. The man paused. He was not interested in the fruit, but after he looked at the bite mark left by the young girl on the apple, he lowered his head and gently bit down on the spot where the girl had left her bite mark. The man's robe was as white as snow. He was as cold as the moon, with a beautiful face, like an immortal. But there was always only one person in his eyes. Me for extra chapters. Jiu Yu slowly moved a few steps back until he reached the wall behind him. There was no way to escape. Feng Ruqing tilted her head and smiled. This Deity's Gate. After all, it's Jiu Yu and Elder Lei Yun's home. We shouldn't go too far. Hearing this, Jiu Yu subconsciously let out a sigh of relief and wiped his forehead. The cold wind blew past him, and he was shocked to realize that he had soaked in a cold sweat. Let's put it this way, Feng Ruqing paused for a moment and continued, Jiu Yu, Jiu Luo, and his son. We don't need to spare them. And those disciples. There's no need to kill them. Initially, I wanted to wait for Jiu Ming to personally take revenge, but... Your people tried to kill my people. Feng Ruqing looked at him lazily. Her red dress was bright, demonic like fire, enchanting the whole city. You've touched my people, so I won't wait for Jiu Ming to make a move. Who made that bastard Jiu Ming go missing? Jiu Ming had gone missing after he had stopped Hu Qing for Nan Xian. She had sent people to look for him, but she could not find any trace of him. The only certain thing was that Jiu Ming must still be alive. Jiu Yu's body went limp and fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with panic. Gradually, the fear within his heart was growing and flaring up. No, it's none of my business. It's all Hu Qing. He possessed my father's body and forced me to work for him. Maiden Feng, please let me go. I'm innocent. Chapter 1425, The Destruction of Deity's Gate 4 in Deity's Gate. The group of elders who were fighting was stunned. They looked at Jiu Yu, who was kneeling on the ground with a puzzled gaze. Young master, who is that Hu Qing you were talking about just now? When did we have this person in Deity's Gate? Only Jiu Yu was clear about Hu Qing's identity, while everyone else was still unaware of it. What? Feng Ruqing smiled lazily. Are you guys unaware that Deity's Gate Master has already changed? His body has not changed, but it has already been possessed. This matter. Jiu Yu probably knows better than anyone else, because he was there at the time, and he also saw it when Jiu Luo died in front of him. This sentence was like a thunderclap in Deity's Gate, exploding in the clear sky, causing everyone to lose their senses. A few minutes later, one of the elders said, angrily, Young master, is what she said true? Is Gate Master dead? Has someone else replaced the Gate Master? You were there, right? Jiu Yu's face turned pale, and his body trembled. Fear appeared in his eyes. He saw that everyone in Deity's Gate looked at him so furiously as if they could eat people, making his heart tremble. Young master, Gate Master is your father. How could you even be indifferent to your father's death? And even let that man use his body to do as he wishes? The elder's face was soaked with sorrowful tears. It seemed that he had never expected that Jiu Yu could be ruthless to such an extent. His old father had died in another kingdom, his body was taken over, and Jiu Yu. He was still able to enjoy his life as nothing had happened. No wonder. No wonder the Gate Master's temperament had changed drastically after his return this time, and he was preying on the female disciples of Deity's Gate. It turned out that he was not their Gate Master. Jiu Yu, you such an ungrateful son. You are a beast. You've harmed the Gate Master and our Deity's Gate. You are a scourge and deserve to die. You don't even have the right to face your ancestors even after you die. Faced with these resentful scoldings, Jiu Yu was numb. He only wanted to save his life, even if 10,000 people kicked his head, he would be willing to do so. Maiden Feng, me for extra chapters. Jiu Yu crawled to Feng Ruqing. When he was about to reach and hold her leg, Feng Ruqing fiercely kicked him, sending Jiu Yu flying several meters away. But Jiu Yu did not feel the humiliation at all, and he still had a smile of wanting to please on his face. Maiden Feng, please forgive me. I'm willing to be anything even if I have to be a cow or a horse. Feng Ruqing tilted her head and looked at Jiu Yu smilingly. Unfortunately, I'm not short of cattle and horses. Elder Lei Yun, little doggy, what are you still standing there for? Settle him now. At this moment, Jiu Yu had no more opportunities to open his mouth. He was surrounded by many spirit beasts, drowning out his heartrending screams. Jiu Yu's death was impending. The people of Deity's Gate all threw their weapons and turned their heads stiffly to Feng Ruching. They only hoped that this would make her spare Deity's Gate. As for the battle, they had lost all their fighting spirit after they knew that the Gate Master was actually Hu Qing. After all, these enemies in front of them were too powerful, even the Gate Master was no match for her, let alone them. Chapter 1426, Feng Wuhui, Tianya I, Maiden, what should we do to these people? Lei Yun did not want to kill them. He stopped and turned to Feng Ruching. Feng Ruching stroked her chin and smiled. It all depends on them. I don't need disloyal or useless people by my side. Elder Lei Yun clenched his fists and said, Maiden, I know what to do. Feng Ruching faintly responded. She stroked her abdomen and turned to Nan Xian with a smile. I'm hungry. Let's go home. All right, the man raised his hand and pulled the young girl into his arms. He glanced at Jiu Yu coldly before turning back to Feng Ruching and said, Mother-in-law is still waiting for us to eat. Let's go home. Feng Ruching did not spare a glance at these people in front of her. Her black eyes were as dark as ink. There was a smile hidden in her eyes, like a star in the sky. The beasts immediately followed her, leaving only the Fengyun Manor's men to settle this mess. A month was like flowing water as if it had disappeared in the blink of an eye. During these 2 months, Feng Ruching did not cultivate much, but all her spiritual qi disappeared like a stone sinking into the sea. Initially, the spiritual energy in Jiuhua Jade was enough to make her strength increase by leaps and bounds. She had drunk the whole bottle of Jiuhua Jade, and still, there was no change. Seemingly sensing her spiritual qi's disappearance, Feng Ruching stood up from the grass with a gloomy face, expressionless. Fu Chen, what's going on? Fu Chen and Qing Han stood next to Feng Ruching. Both of them were stunned. They probably did not know why this was happening. In the end, it was Fu Chen who opened his mouth first. I'm not sure why. But I do feel that the child in your womb is healthy, me for extra chapters. Indeed. After swallowing so much spiritual qi, could she not be healthy? Even when Feng Ruching was fighting before, she was not affected at all. When I was in Fangzhou mainland, I was busy trying to figure out how to get out of that place, and then when I returned to Luyun Kingdom, I had to prepare for the wedding. So I didn't even notice that this kid had swallowed up all the spiritual qi that I had worked so hard to cultivate and ate Jiuhua Jade given by the state preceptor. Fortunately, she was not holy warrior, who had made a breakthrough through self-cultivation. Otherwise, she would never have reached this rank if this situation continued. Feng Ruching did not believe this nonsense. Even if her child devoured her spiritual qi so greedily, there should always be a time when she was full and stopped. So, she sat on the grass again and gathered all the spiritual qi around her, seeping into her body. However, no matter how much spiritual qi had been absorbed, it was all swallowed up instantly, leaving her with not even a trace of it. Feng Ruching was speechless. Why suddenly I feel like I want to kill this baby? Why didn't I find her so evil before? Fu Chen silently looked at Feng Ruching. First, it might be because you didn't enter a state of cultivation before. Secondly, according to humans, what was in your womb in the beginning was just an embryo that hadn't grown up yet, so naturally it wouldn't affect anything. But now she's over 4 months old, so it can affect some of your behavior. Chapter 1427, Feng Wuhui, Tianya Tu. Feng Ruching frowned. You know about embryos? Mother, don't forget that we also came into this world with you, so I'll naturally know. Oh, she pouted. So when can I give birth to this thing? I can't let her keep affecting my cultivation. Fu Chen paused and looked somewhat sympathetically at the child in Feng Ruching's belly. Hopefully. The one inside her womb was a girl. If it were a boy, he would probably be beaten up by his mother when he was born, maybe even abandoned. His mother had always been soft on girls, and her warmth was something a boy could never enjoy. Mother, little Ching Han looked serious. What's in mother's belly isn't a thing. She's a little sister. Mother has used the wrong word. How could mother call her a thing? Feng Ruqing stroked her chin. How do you know it will be a little sister? Not a hairy boy. Fu Chen sighed. See, mother is different toward girls, even the way mother addressed them is different. So, the one in the womb could only pray for himself. Hopefully, if it were a boy, he would be smart enough to change genders after hearing these words from his mother. Otherwise, its life would probably be miserable. Of course it's a little. Little Ching Han smiled brightly. I can feel that she is definitely a little sister. Only a little sister can be so well-behaved. Well-behaved? Feng Ruqing sneered. It had swallowed all her spiritual qi, and that was still called well-behaved. Anne. Only the little sister will be so greedy. The boys can't be too greedy. Ching Han was very serious. So, from that, I can conclude that it must be a little sister. Feng Ruqing frowned. I hope so. Fu Chen was speechless. Somehow he shivered fiercely after hearing the girl's words. Me for extra chapters. He always felt that. If it were not a girl after birth, his mother would hang him up and beat him first. It was terrible. Mother, Fu Chen's face became gloomy. Promise me that if you give birth to a boy, will you calm down for a while? Don't act recklessly. It's not good if you kill him. After all, he's your own child. Feng Ruqing glanced at Fu Chen. Don't I look calm now? Then. Can you take your hand off my arm first? Feng Ruqing was startled. She had just realized that she had pinched Fu Chen hard. The little guy's arms were all blue. He looked pitiful. Oh, sorry. Just now I imagined you as my future son. Feng Ruqing calmly retreated her hand, acting as if nothing had happened. Mother, promise me that you'll be calm when you see the baby, and don't pinch me again. Feng Ruqing kept her hand back. Sorry, as soon as you say that I can't control myself. Well, I'll try to control it then. Everything will be fine if he gives me back my spiritual qi. But if not. Hee. I'll never let him go. Fu Chen was on the verge of tears. Mother really does prefer women to men. Besides, he was not the one who stole his mother's spiritual qi, so why did she treat him like that? Little Ching Han's small arms encircled Feng Ruqing's arm, with a cute and innocent smile on her adorable face. Mother, don't listen to brother Fu Chen. The one in mother's womb is obviously a little sister, not a little brother. Chapter 1428, Feng Wuhui, Tianya 3. She only liked little sisters, not little brothers. But if it were born by her mother, she would accept it regardless of gender. Feng Ruqing smiled. I think so. If this thing is a boy, I'll settle with him first about him stealing my spiritual qi. It's not good for boys to eat this much. Not like a little girl who would always look cute. How could she be ruthless with them? Fu Chen, Feng Ruqing's face darkened as she turned to Fu Chen. It was so scary that he almost cried out. Why did his mother always have two faces when she faced Ching Han, and when she treated him? Was it his fault that he was born as a boy? Obviously, he was innocent. Is there still no news about Jiuming? Fu Chen was stunned and shook his head. Mother, Sangyu mainland is so big. I've sent so many spirit beasts there but still can't find him. I don't know what else I should do now. Feng Ruqing's face sank slightly. Where in the world had Jiuming gone? Even if Fu Qing had killed him, there had to be a corpse. He had not been seen alive, but he was not dead yet. They had been looking for him for a month, but he was still missing. Feng Ruching sighed. As long as he is still alive, we will meet again sooner or later. In this life, she undoubtedly owed Jiu Ming a few favors. This guy helped her and never asked for a return. Of course, even if Jiu Ming wanted her to return the favor, there was no way she would give the state preceptor to him. You two stay in the medium. I'm going to find my handsome state preceptor. Feng Ruching immediately left the medium after saying this word. Princess Manor. On the back mountain. The man was standing in the middle of the herbs forest. He was dressed in white, light, and elegant. Me for extra chapters. He then sensed a warm breath behind him and slowly turned around. His face was as handsome as immortal. Did you find it? Siyi stood behind Nan Xian, calmly shook her head. I've got some clues. Are you really going to that place? Yes, Nan Xian responded faintly. Father-in-law wants to find the late emperor. Siyi opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but eventually did not. But Nan Xian's gaze fell on Siyi's stunning face. You don't seem to want me to go there. Siyi lowered her eyes. A few moments later, she smiled and said, No. Nan Xian, you don't have to think too much. I'm just afraid that place is not safe and you and Qing'er will be in danger. Mother, Nan Xian slowly walked towards Siyi. Are you hiding something from me? The passageway that Feng Wuhui found when he stepped onto that mainland has been closed, but how do you know about another path? The people in Sangyu mainland only know one way to that place. There was only one path to the other world that all the three major forces knew. But not long after Tianya disappeared, that place was closed. How did Siyi know about the other passage? Siyi was startled. Nan Xian stared at Siyi. You can't lie because it's easy to detect. Siyi opened her mouth and thought for a while before letting out a helpless sigh. If I really wanted to stop you from going, I wouldn't help you find the way because I know that Qing'er will definitely find another way to get there. Their family will definitely unite, but Nan Xian, you and Qing'er must promise me one thing. If you go to find Tianya, don't get involved with any of the spirit beast clans. Never. Chapter 1429, Feng Wuhui, Tianya 4, you know how much Qing'er is attracted to spirit beasts, so I want to know the reason. There's no reason. Don't deal with any clan of spirit beasts. I'm doing it for your own good. You, Siyi's voice trailed off and eventually sighed in frustration. You'll find out later. And don't let Qing'er know about this or else with Qing'er's temper. I'm afraid it might be more dangerous. My son will be fine. He will not act recklessly. But Qing'er was a short-tempered and fearless girl. After she knew about what had happened between Siyi and Mu Ling on that day, she rushed off to settle scores with Mu Ling. Nan Xian, if you don't want Qing'er to be in danger, don't let her know. Siyi's tone sounded serious. Nan Xian stared at her for a few moments. All right, I won't let her know. Siyi let out a gentle sigh of relief as if the stone in her heart finally fell to the ground. But Nan Xian's tone remained calm. My wife doesn't need to be so fearful, she just needs to do as she pleases. I will try my best to take her to places where there are no spirit beasts, and if she does end up dealing with the spirit beast clan, I won't restrict her too much. He did not want to restrict Feng Ruching's freedom. No matter what, she would be able to do as she pleased. On the other hand, he would undoubtedly make himself even stronger, going to indulge her in doing as she pleased. Siyi smiled bitterly. She understood that this was already the final concession that Nan Xian was willing to make. And Nan Xian's gaze once again fell on Siyi's face. I'll look into it. If you refuse to tell me, then I'll go and find out about it. I would never want to be ignorant of everything. Siyi's heart tightened. Nan Xian. You're my mother. I'll protect my wife, so I should naturally protect you. I don't care what relationship you have with that place. I don't care what kind of strength the person who bullied you has, but once I've found out about it, Nan Xian sneered. That person will end up like Mu Ling. Siyi was stunned. Her son had grown up, and not only had he married, but he also had the strength to protect her. But those people. They were not something that Nan Xian and Qing'er could deal with now. Siyi clenched her fist tightly. She looked at Nan Xian's determined expression and slowly loosened her clenched fist. Me for extra chapters. She had told Qing'er not to have contact with any spirit beast clan, but it could not be avoided for a lifetime. Back then, after she left, she did not want to go back to that place, and she did not want to fight with anyone for anything. As before, she only wished that their family could stay together forever, and be free of worries and disasters for the rest of her life. But what if her child was destined to be involved? A gentle breeze brushed past, and suddenly, Siyi had finally got over it. She had no other desires in this life. If this was her inescapable fate, then she should take back what was hers. Whether it was for Nan Xian or Qing'er. The land of no return. She was destined to step into it again. Nan Xian, be safe. Siyi's face was calm and firm. I will come to you soon. Nan Xian looked at Siyi. All right, after those words fell, they did not say anything more. As Nan Xian raised his eyes, he saw a figure in a red dress coming from a short distance away. Siyi also saw Feng Ruqing was walking toward the back of the mountain, and her face was back to its initial light and gentle as a spring breeze. Qing'er, are you here to see Nan Xian? You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.